I thought I could get away with cheating. Hospital and divorce papers proved me wrong. The night my husband's heart attack exposed everything. I was in bed with my lover when my phone wouldn't stop ringing. 11 missed calls from my mother-in-law. 3 from my sister. 2 from a number I didn't recognize. I ignored them all because Daniel's hands were on my skin and I told my husband I was at a work conference 2 states away. When I finally checked my voicemail, my whole world shattered in 5 words: your husband had a heart attack. Matt was in the ICU. 41 years old, athletic, no prior health issues, and his heart had just given out while he was putting our 7-year-old son to bed. The hospital had been calling for 3 hours. 3 hours while I was wrapped around another man, my phone on silent, living in a fantasy world where consequences didn't exist. I threw on clothes, didn't say goodbye to Daniel, and drove 6 hours through the night with my hands shaking so badly I nearly crashed twice. My mind was racing. What if he dies? What if the last conversation we had was me lying about a conference that didn't exist? What if my children lose their father while I was choosing myself over everything we'd built? We'd been married for 9 years. Together for 12. High school love story that everyone envied. Matt was the guy who still brought me coffee in bed, who coached our son's baseball team, who held our 4-year-old daughter during thunderstorms. He worked construction, long hours in the summer, but he never complained. Never gave me a reason to stray except that he was predictable, stable, safe. And I'd started craving danger. Daniel was a client at the marketing firm where I worked. Divorced, no kids, drove a BMW, took me to expensive restaurants and made me feel like someone important instead of just someone's tired wife. Our affair started 6 months ago at a conference that was real. One drink turned into kissing in the hotel hallway. I told myself it was just physical. That I could compartmentalize. That Matt would never know because I was careful. I'd been so careful. Separate phone for Daniel. Cleared my browser history. Made up work trips that aligned with real company events so my stories had backup. I'd even had my assistant create fake calendar invites. When Matt asked about my trips, I'd show him confirmation emails I'd fabricated. I thought I was untouchable. My best friend Kiara knew. She'd caught me texting Daniel at her birthday party and I'd confessed everything over wine. She told me I was playing Russian roulette with my family. You think you're in control, but you're one mistake away from losing everything, Amanda. I'd laughed it off. Told her I had it handled. That Matt trusted me completely so he'd never even think to question me. The kids had started acting differently about 2 months ago. My son Tyler stopped showing me his homework. My daughter Zoe started clinging to Matt more, asking him to do her hair instead of me. I told myself it was normal development, kids bonding with their dad. The truth I didn't want to see was that they could feel my emotional absence even if they couldn't name it. I'd missed Zoe's preschool graduation because I told Matt I had a client dinner. I was actually in Daniel's apartment. Tyler had asked me to help with his science project 3 times and I kept putting him off because I was texting Daniel. Matt had commented that I seemed distant, distracted. I'd snapped at him, told him he was being needy. Turned my guilt into his problem. The night before Matt's heart attack, we fought. He'd asked why I changed my phone password. Why I was always working late suddenly. Why I flinched when he touched me. I'd gotten defensive, accused him of being paranoid and controlling. Told him maybe if he was more ambitious, more exciting, I wouldn't need so much space. The hurt in his eyes had been devastating but I'd pushed it down. Gotten in my car and driven straight to Daniel. When I got to the hospital, Matt's mother was in the waiting room. She looked at me with pure hatred. Where were you? We've been calling for hours. Your husband almost died and you were unreachable. I started to give her my rehearsed excuse about the conference, bad cell service, and she held up her hand. Matt's assistant called looking for you. Said there was no conference this week. So I'll ask you again, Amanda. Where were you? My throat closed. I couldn't speak. That's what I thought, she said coldly. He's stable now? Room 304. The doctors said the heart attack was brought on by severe stress and anxiety. They asked what might have been causing him extreme emotional distress. She leaned in close. I wonder what could have stressed out a man who works himself to death for a wife who's never where she says she'll be. I walked to his room on shaking legs. Matt was hooked up to machines, his face gray, looking 10 years older than he had that morning. Our kids were asleep in chairs next to his bed. Tyler's face was tear-stained. Zoe was clutching her dad's hand even in sleep. Matt's eyes opened when I walked in. He looked at me and I saw something I'd never seen before. Not anger. Not hurt. Something worse. Recognition. He knew. The hospital needed my emergency contact information, he whispered. His voice was rough from the breathing tube they'd removed. They called my assistant when they couldn't reach you. She told them you weren't at any conference? That you'd been taking a lot of personal days lately that weren't on the company calendar. I opened my mouth but nothing came out. I had 3 hours lying here thinking I might die, he continued. 3 hours wondering where my wife was. And I knew, Amanda. In my gut, I knew. Who is he? Matt, please, you need to rest your heart. Who is he? His voice was louder now, and the monitors started beeping faster. A nurse rushed in. Sir, you need to calm down. Your heart rate is spiking. My wife was sleeping with someone while I was dying. The machines were going crazy now. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me you weren't with someone else. I couldn't. The silence was its own confession. The nurse hit a button and more staff rushed in. You need to leave. Now. You're putting him at risk. They pushed me out of the room. Through the door, I could hear Matt sobbing while they tried to stabilize him. Tyler had woken up and was crying, asking what was wrong with Daddy. Zoe was screaming for her father. Matt's mother grabbed my arm in the hallway. You did this. You put him here. If he dies, that's on you. Security escorted me out of the hospital. I sat in my car in the parking lot and called Daniel. I needed someone, anyone, to tell me this would be okay. He answered on the 4th ring. Hey, I thought you were driving back? Matt had a heart attack. He knows, Daniel. He knows about us. Silence. Daniel? Look, Amanda, this is heavy. I didn't sign up for this kind of drama. Maybe we should cool things off for a while. Cool things off? I just left my husband in a hospital bed because of us. Because of you, he corrected. You're the one who's married. This is your mess. I'm sorry about your husband, but I can't be part of this. He hung up. I sat there in disbelief. The man I'd risked everything for had just abandoned me in a hospital parking lot. 3 days later, Matt was stable enough to have visitors. I wasn't allowed to see him. His lawyer showed up at my house instead. The divorce papers cited adultery and emotional abandonment of minor children. He was seeking full custody and wanted me out of the house immediately. Mr. Patterson wants you to know that he's alive despite you, not because of you, the lawyer said. He'll communicate only through legal counsel from now on. He suggests you find somewhere else to stay tonight. Daniel blocked my number 2 days after Matt's heart attack. Blocked me on everything. When I showed up at his apartment, his neighbor told me he'd moved out. Turns out he'd been seeing someone else the whole time we were together. The man I destroyed my marriage for had an actual girlfriend who didn't know I existed. I was the other woman to the other man. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so devastating. The divorce was brutal and swift. Matt had evidence I didn't even know existed. He'd suspected something was wrong for months and had quietly been documenting everything. Screenshots of my location being different from where I said I was. Credit card statements showing purchases in cities where I claimed to be working but had no actual business. A private investigator's report with photos of me and Daniel at restaurants, holding hands, kissing in parking lots. But the worst evidence was a folder labeled The Kids. Notes about all the times I'd missed important moments. Zoe's graduation that I'd skipped. Tyler's science project I'd ignored. A recording of Tyler asking Matt, "Why doesn't mommy love us anymore?" Matt's response, "She loves you, buddy. She's just lost right now." That recording played in the custody hearing. I watched the judge's face change as she heard my 7-year-old son question his mother's love while I was in another man's bed. The judge gave Matt full physical custody. I got supervised visitation every other Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. 4 hours. 4 hours every 2 weeks with my own children, and only with a court-appointed supervisor present because Matt's lawyer had argued I'd demonstrated a pattern of prioritizing personal gratification over parental responsibilities to a degree that endangered the children's emotional well-being. The supervisor's name was Patricia. She was a kind woman in her 60s who sat in the corner of the visitation room taking notes while my kids sat stiffly on a couch, not knowing how to act around me anymore. Tyler wouldn't make eye contact. Zoe asked if she could go home to Daddy after 30 minutes. "We have 3.5 more hours, sweetie," I said, trying to smile. "But I don't want to be here," she said plainly. She was 4 years old and she'd already learned to be honest about not wanting to be around her mother. Patricia wrote something in her notebook. I knew it wasn't good. The first few visits, I tried to do activities. Coloring, board games, reading books. But the kids were mechanical, going through motions. They'd answer my questions with one-word responses. When I asked Tyler about school, he said, "Dad already knows about school." When I tried to hug Zoe, she tolerated it but didn't hug back. By the 4th visit, Zoe asked Patricia, "Do we have to keep coming here?" I lost it. broke down crying right there in the visitation room. Patricia had to call Matt to come get the kids early. Tyler looked scared of my tears. Zoe just looked confused. They didn't comfort me. They waited by the door for their father to rescue them from me. Matt looked healthier when he came to get them. He'd lost the gray pallor, started exercising, seeing a therapist. He didn't look at me, just collected our kids and left. I heard Tyler ask him in the hallway, "Is Mommy okay?" And Matt's gentle response, "Mommy's sad because she made some bad choices. But that's not your job to fix, buddy." Even in his pain, he was protecting them from having to parent me. While I was falling apart, he was being the stable force they needed. The professional fallout was immediate. Word spread through my industry that I'd been having an affair with a client, lying about work trips, fabricating company events. My boss called me in and said while they couldn't fire me for my personal life, they were restructuring my role. I went from account executive to administrative assistant. My salary was cut in half. My office became a cubicle. People who used to respect me now whispered when I walked by. Kiara, my best friend who'd warned me, stopped taking my calls. She sent one text, "I told you this would happen. You didn't listen. I can't watch you destroy yourself anymore, and I especially can't watch you try to make yourself the victim. Get help." Then she blocked me. My family was disgusted. My parents had loved Matt like a son. When I tried to explain my side, my father said, "There is no side where you're not the villain, Amanda. You cheated on a good man while he was building a life for you. You abandoned your children for an affair. And your selfishness almost killed him. Don't come back here until you understand what you've done." My mother cried. Just cried and couldn't even look at me. I had to move into a one-bedroom apartment in a bad part of town. It was all I could afford on my reduced salary and the child support I owed Matt. Yes, I owed him. The judge had calculated my income from before my demotion and ordered me to pay based on that. When I tried to get it modified based on my new salary, the judge denied it, saying my demotion was a consequence of choices made by the petitioner. I lost my car when I couldn't make payments. Started taking the bus. Would see Matt sometimes, driving the kids to school in our old SUV. They'd be laughing, singing along to music, looking happy. Tyler had joined Little League. Zoe was taking dance classes. They were thriving without me. Matt started dating someone about 8 months after the divorce was final. Her name was Rachel. She was a cardiac nurse. They'd met during his recovery. The irony wasn't lost on me that the woman replacing me had literally helped save his life while I'd nearly ended it. I saw them once at a coffee shop. Matt, Rachel, and my kids. They looked like a family. Rachel was braiding Zoe's hair. Tyler was showing Matt something on his phone. They were laughing. Then Zoe said, "Can we get donuts, Rachel?" Not asking me. Asking her. Rachel saw me standing there. She didn't look smug or victorious. She looked sympathetic, which somehow hurt worse. She whispered something to Matt. He glanced over, his face neutral, then turned back to the kids. They left without acknowledging me. I followed them on social media through a fake account. Watched Rachel become part of their lives. She went to Tyler's games. She helped Zoe with her dance recitals. She was patient and kind and everything I should have been but wasn't. Tyler wrote a school essay about my hero. He wrote about his dad. About how Matt had gotten healthy after being sick. How he worked hard and played catch and helped with homework. How he'd shown Tyler that real love means showing up even when things are hard. The teacher posted it on the school's website. There wasn't a single mention of me. On Zoe's 5th birthday, I sent presents to Matt's house. A doll she'd been wanting, clothes, books. A week later, they were returned to my apartment with a note from Matt's lawyer. "The children have requested that gifts from their mother be donated to charity. They don't feel comfortable accepting them at this time. Visitation continues as scheduled." My own children were rejecting my gifts. I begged my supervised visitation supervisor to tell me what I could do. Patricia looked at me sadly and said, "Children don't forgive abandonment easily, Amanda. You weren't there when they needed you. You chose someone else over them repeatedly. Now they're choosing not to need you. That's the consequence." I tried to go back to therapy, but I kept making excuses. Blaming Matt for being boring. Blaming Daniel for lying to me. Blaming work stress. My therapist finally said, "Until you can sit in this room and say I destroyed my family because I wanted something else more than I wanted them, we can't make progress." I couldn't say it. Not for months. Then Tyler turned 9. Matt posted a birthday photo. Tyler, Zoe, Matt, and Rachel. They'd gone to an amusement park. Tyler was wearing a shirt that said "Best Day Ever." In the background, you could see Rachel's hand on his shoulder. Protective. Maternal. I stared at that photo for hours. That should have been me. I should have been the one at his birthday. I should have been the one he was smiling with. But I traded that for a man who'd dumped me in a hospital parking lot. For an affair that had lasted 6 months and cost me everything. I finally said it out loud in therapy. I destroyed my family because I wanted to feel desired more than I wanted to be their mother. I chose myself over 2 innocent children who needed me. And I almost killed a good man because my ego was more important than his heart. My therapist nodded. That's the truth. Now the question is, what do you do with that truth? But there's nothing to do. Matt moved on with someone who actually shows up for him. My kids have a mother figure who puts them first. I'm just the woman they see for 4 hours every 2 weeks, and even that feels like an obligation they resent. I thought I could get away with cheating because I was smart, because I was careful, because Matt trusted me too much to question me. But you can't get away with betrayal. It catches up eventually. And when it does, when your husband ends up in a hospital bed because the stress of your lies literally broke his heart, when your children look at you like a stranger, when the man you threw everything away for reveals he never cared at all, there's no coming back from that. The hospital and divorce papers didn't prove me wrong about cheating. They proved I was never the person I thought I was. I was just someone selfish enough to risk lives for an affair and stupid enough to think there wouldn't be consequences. Matt's alive despite me. My kids are happy without me. And I'm here, alone, living with the knowledge that I almost killed the best thing that ever happened to me because I wanted to feel special for a few hours a week. That's not wrong. That's devastating. And it's permanent.